You know what I love about indie music?
What do you like about it, Steph?
It grooves me, it soothes me, it takes me to another level. It makes me feel so good. Indie music. Welcome to the indie music show. Indie music. Everybody, it's the indie show. Indie music. Here we have the indie music show. Indie music. Here and now, the indie music show. Welcome to the Indie Music Show with your hosts, Stephanie Jeannot and
Johnny J.
We all have reactions to the hot button issues we hear in the news, such as police shootings and Black Lives Matter. And some people post like different memes on Facebook and Instagram, and people are tweeting about it all day. Mm-hmm. And then others use their platform to affect change by shaping the discourse of their musical content around the issues at hand. Right. So the question is it the responsibility of the artist to speak up about the issues? What do you think about that?
Well, that's a good philosophy in theory. Is if it's an artist's responsibility, it's not. But I think a lot of artists, like if it's a huge world-affecting event that has this huge domino effect, anybody that has artistic expression, it would be difficult for them not to respond to that. So chances are a lot of artists are either going to write a song about it. A lot of artists that paint are going to paint allegoric murals or something similar to that. Or poets might, are going to write some kind of spoken word thing, or you'll see books,
Speaking of murals, there's this mural in Brooklyn on 4th Avenue and Union Street. And it goes the whole entire block. They call it the Wall of Justice. And because George Floyd incident happened on Memorial Day. So the day after, a whole group of artists came together and they painted all different murals along this one wall. And it's amazing. It's an amazing wall. And I seen it one day and I was like, that's just beautiful. I started taking pictures of it. And the other day I was like, Rise Up has to do with everything that mural was talking about. So maybe I can use it to build our video. Rise Up is a conversation about George Floyd, because there was a news report and it was talking about how a cop put his knee on his neck to restrain him for over 5 minutes. He couldn't breathe, obviously.
That was 8.
Was it 8 minutes?
Yeah.
And, I think that night I couldn't sleep because it's just so confusing to constantly hear things like that going on. It's just every couple months, or you always hearing about a cop murdering somebody.
Right.
And so when you see all those different murals, you see that wall of justice.
So many questions got me up tonight, thinking about life. Still can't understand why, after all of this time, we can't be unified. Hatred over color of skin. Another brother lost his life again. Why can't we see the beauty in diversity? Why do we limit love? Why can't we come together as one and
So today I'm thinking about Black Lives Matter. There's this mural in Brooklyn on 4th Avenue and Union Street called the Wall of Justice. And along the entire stretch of the block are different murals by all these incredible artists, all talking about Black Lives Matter. So, we all have reactions to the news. Like everybody had a reaction when they saw the George Floyd story.
Right.
My nephew, 7 years old, said he was scared to go outside when he saw the news report, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Some people react by putting all these memes up on Facebook and on Instagram. And then some people use their platform to affect change by shaping the discourse of their musical content towards the issues at hand. The question is it the responsibility of the artist to speak up about the issues? And today we have special guests, Brittani Evans from California and Richmond Punch from Atlanta, Georgia, who is going to help us to talk about that issue. So is it the responsibility of the artist to talk about issues like this?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we as artists do we're not bringing new information to people. We're talking about what's already going on. We're not making things up. We're sharing what we're already experiences. That's what an artist's job is. I mean, it's definitely our job as artists to express what's going on in the world, to express how we feel. I think people relate to music so much because it speaks to your life. You know what I'm saying? Not just what's going on in the world, but if it's a love song, if it's a breakup song, if it's just a melody that you hear that reminds you of something, it speaks to your life and it speaks to your memories, and it gives you the opportunity to relate to what's going on. It gives you the opportunity to say, hey, I'm not alone in how I feel. Hey, I'm not alone in what I'm thinking. I may not say it, but I'm thinking it. And artists, it's our job to say it.
The universal language.
Exactly. Yep.
I concur. Yeah, totally.
What do you think, Richmond?
I think that it's very important. Artists need to have a voice. Today, it's one of the things I realized really before going into this 2020 that it's very important for artists to have a message, beyond their music. Of course, like there should always be a foundational message behind the music. And what I realized before this time was that my message has to do a lot with Black Lives Matter. That it gave me the purpose, really a lot of the purpose and the energy that I needed to make it through 2020. Because to not sit and just watch the news every day, but to be involved and to bring about like a change in what way I could, really kind of change my 2020.
I think one advantage that we have about artists that sometimes we don't think about, or maybe other people, maybe you do, but a lot of people don't have, I don't want to say the courage, but have it in them to talk to large groups of people and to sing in front of people and to play instruments in front of people. That's not something that comes naturally, to just everybody. So, if we're not going to speak out and say it, who else will? It's just not an easy thing. It's our job.
It's definitely a role. You say it's a job, but I definitely think it's a role where Brittani and I were just talking this a little bit before the show started. Like, if there's a lot of extremity going on, with current events and stuff, it'd be very hard to resist and not just touch that subject content. Like if we do literature, for example, some people might be with journalism. Of course, they could definitely report on what's going on here from so many different extremes. But then again, you have other authors that will do children's books and stuff like that. You'll have performing artists at the same time might be putting out these fillers, like just more or less pop songs and stuff. But at the same way, that gives the counterculture artists more of a platform to be those news anchors and reporters, and then do it via the channel of song with our art, basically, with writing songs, spoken word, and then even instrumentally speaking.
I think it's interesting that you said it's like journalists. It kind of is. We are journalists, but in our own way. You know, we're journalists, but with music, we make it sound good. We make it sound pretty. And I think the better thing about music versus journalism is that we are not one-sided. We're not trying to convince somebody of anything other than how we're feeling. You know, it's not necessarily convincing you about what's going on in the world or what's happening. You know, everyone has their own opinions and we see it ourselves and we experience it ourselves. But the great thing about being an artist is your music is your expression. So whether somebody likes it or not, you know, most of us don't care.
Right.
So it's still ours. It's our music and it's how we feel. So if we make it and you happen to like it and you relate to it and you feel the same way we do, then hey, we did our job. But it's a way of us expressing, you know, what's going on and us being journalists, but with music in our own way. You know, it comes from a place. Music always comes from somewhere and it has a reason. And whether or not you want to look into what that reason is or be a part of that reason or just judge it based on the sound, you know, is really on you and how much the listener wants to engage in what the artist is trying to say.
Right.
Well, I think there is a need.
First came out.
Like you talk about hands up. When you think about it, this year alone, 864 civilians were fatally shot by cops. Last year, 996. In 2018, 1,014. And a study by the Washington Post revealed that most victims of police brutality are young males, and more than half of the victims are between the ages of 20 and 40. And that's scary. You know, can you imagine, like, I used to smoke cigarettes. Like, what if somebody said, can I bum a cigarette off of you? Can I get for 25 cents? Were they going to kill me because I'm selling a cigarette? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the chances of me being in my bed sleeping and somebody coming in and shooting me?
And that's one of the hardest things, I think, when I hear all this, when a lot of people's excuses or reasoning for things is, well, Black people kill Black people. That is probably that statement just makes me livid. Like, I don't know one single Black person, first off, that's okay with Black people killing Black people neither, you know? And secondly, that's not making it okay for somebody else to kill us too, and especially somebody who's supposed to be protecting us, you know? So that is one of the biggest arguments that literally drives me crazy. Like, well, Black people are killing Black people anyway. So what? Not that it's a good thing. We don't like it that they're killing each other neither. So why are you saying that like that's justification for us still being killed? That one of my things.
Right. I mean, I can't think of any sane person that would really be a fan of violence, especially lethal violence to begin with. I mean, it kind of seems like primitive, like Wild West type mentality now in 2020. I mean, here in Chicago, of course, too. It's just, I mean, you know, it's like, oh yeah, before it's like anybody can have a gun and they can be strapped no matter what. But no, I've been out and around. Like, there's been like a couple nearby malls that have just had. It's just been a slight altercation, which creates people, you know, drawing their guns, and then of course the cops come in, and then it's just chaos from that point on. It's a huge domino effect. And unfortunately, we only get part of that through yellow journalism and stuff. But just violence as a whole, it's, I think there's need to come up with some kind of solution. I mean, come on, it's already the 21st century, you know. There's been so many kids nearby with just so many houses getting lit up and stuff, you know, where their life is very crucial and vital, and then they become deceased at age 5, you know, and it's, you know, their life mattered, and they're not even, I mean, they're in grade school, they're not even in grade school in some cases. So that's very devastating, especially in Chicago. The first 5 news stories. That's what it is. Devastating.
And see, I think it comes down to consideration, period. Consideration of other people. This younger generation is very, I'm not going to say not considerate, but they are very self-focused.
Right.
And they do not think about how their actions affect other people.
Right.
They don't think about what happens beyond right now. And that is a problem that we're getting into more and more, it seems like, with the younger people. You know, anybody 20 and under or 24 and under, you know, it's turning into a very selfish society where we're not considering each other, and that's making it rough. And I think that's part of the thing as well. When there is police violence, it's not just that they're killing us. It's that they're killing us in front of our kids. It's that
that is the crazy part.
You know, I work with I Am SAC Foundation out here in Sacramento. I volunteer with them, and I coordinate with them, collaborate with them on a couple things. And here in Sacramento, Stephon Clark was killed back in 2018. And I met with his mother, Sequette Clark, recently. And I happened to be at the house that he was killed in. And so while I was there, she took me out in the backyard and showed me where he died and explained to me that he got out of the car in the front yard on the street and was walking across the street to his house when he was approached by police officers. So he literally just ran to go home, didn't do anything wrong, didn't know what was going on, ran to go home. They followed him, shot him in his backyard, and not only did they kill him, but bullets went through the walls and barely grazed past her other grandchildren that were in there.
Are you serious?
So when she explained that to me and she was showing me the bullet holes in the wall and the blood that's still stained in the backyard, it's like, you know, what are we supposed to say about that? There's no other solution. It wasn't just poor Stephon Clark, but those children in that house, and her mother was there. And you know what I'm saying? It's just blatant disregard for the safety of not only that person, but the people around you.
Wow. So tell us about your song, Hands Up.
Oh, okay. So Hands Up was a song that I wrote many years ago. Unfortunately, it is still effective now, but I wrote it back in 2017. And my son is 12 years old. And my son is 18. When he was 12 years old in 2015, he had a stroke. As a result of his stroke, he went without oxygen for 6.5 hours on the right side of the brain. So yeah, he was at the hospital and everything. They thought he was having a seizure, but indeed he was having a stroke. So by the time they figured it out, they airlifted him. They did emergency surgery. You know, he went too long without activity to the right side of his brain. So he's paralyzed on his left side, but he survived. And the extent of the stroke, they said he wasn't even supposed to survive. And the part of his brain that it damaged, it affected his personality part. So the fact that he is still himself, they said, is literally a miracle, like, because it was very significant and he should have suffered a lot more damage than he did. So we're grateful every day that he's here. But one of the things that caused me to write the song was I was having a discussion with a girlfriend of mine who has a disabled child. And at the time, you know, of course, Black men were being killed by the police, and she was objecting to the Black Lives Matter thing. Well, all lives matter. You know, my child's life matters too. And I said to her, do you worry about your child coming home dead for going out just for being disabled? And she looked at me and was like, well, no, why would I do that? And I had to explain to her, my son is disabled. And on his left side, his arm is up all the time like this. So it literally, if he has a jacket on, is inside the jacket like this. And it looks like he's reaching for something all the time. So I'm concerned that if my son goes out, he's 6 foot, size 13 men's shoe, and he encounters the police, they're going to shoot first and ask questions later. I
Right.
worry about my son being outside, just being himself and being shot because he can't put his hands up and they won't give him the time to explain that he can't. So after that, I wrote a song. I was just driving home and kind of writing while I was driving and recording what I can and writing down and just crying tears while I was writing it. And I just wrote Hands Up. It just came to me, and it was about all the events that were currently going on at the time. And the sad thing is it still applies, and I probably need to update the song and add different verses for some of other people that have most recently passed. And it's heartbreaking, but it still applies.
It does apply. And I would love to share the song with everybody. So
Okay.
we're going to listen to Brittani Camille's song, Hands Up, and we'll be right back.
Hands up, don't shoot, cause I got too much to lose. On my back, can't shake 'em loose. Life or death, why can't we choose? Not resisting officers, but we're just scared. Right or wrong, you take it there. Just want my life and it's not fair that you go to the corner store just to pick up a few goodies, and then you're followed home suspicious cause you wear a dark hoodie. Shots ring through the sky, another mom left to cry cause she lost her son and he lost his life before he even had one. Didn't get to graduate, wasn't even legal age. Justice was denied cause the courts deemed it was justified. Hands up, don't shoot, cause I got too much to lose. On my back, can't shake 'em loose. Life or death, why can't we choose? Not resisting officers, but we're just scared. Right or wrong, you take it there. Just want my life and it's not fair that we can't drive down the street with the right to conceal and carry. Pull over as I'm driving past, tell you everything that I learned in class. Officer, I have a gun, but a permanent and registered one. You shoot me in front of my kid, and my baby mama had to witness it. Recorded it for all to see. It was clear I was unthreatening. Another shooter charged and tried, another deemed justified. Hands up, don't shoot, cause I got too much to lose. On my back, can't shake 'em loose. Life or death, why can't we choose? Not resisting officers, but we're just scared. Right or wrong, you take it there. Just want my life and it's not fair that I'm outside of a store selling cigarettes and CDs. Wasn't hurting anyone, the police come start harassing me. Threw me down to the ground, though I could hardly make a sound. I began to beg and plead, officers get up because I can't breathe. Knees all in my back, wouldn't cut me no slack. The whole world watched me die and the court said it was justified. Hands up, don't shoot, cause I got too much to lose. On my back, can't shake 'em loose. Life or death, why can't we choose? Not resisting officers, but we're just scared. Right or wrong, you take it there. Just want my life and it's not fair that a routine traffic stop turns into a whole new thing. Ordered out of the car for no reason and you start to beat me. Hit my body and my head, found later in a jail cell dead. Claimed it was suicide, even though we proved they lied. Justice was denied cause the courts deemed it was justified. Justice was denied cause the courts deemed it was justified. Hands up for all of our people who've been wrongly accused. Hands up for our single mothers, you did all you can do. Hands up for our active fathers because it takes a man. Hands up for our in-debt students because you have a plan. Hands up for all of our soldiers and all our veterans. Hands up for all of our children to make it home again. Hands up, don't shoot, cause I got too much to lose. On my back, can't shake 'em loose. Life or death, why can't we choose? Not resisting officers, but we're just scared. Right or wrong, you take it there. Just want my life and it's not fair for all of our people who've been wrongly accused. For our single mothers, you did all you can do. For our active fathers, because it takes a man. For our in-debt students, because you have a plan. For all of our soldiers and all our veterans.
That's a deep song, and it's so relevant to what's going on right now with cops just deciding that they have to shoot without really getting an explanation or trying to resolve the situation. Because I think that you can try to restrain someone without killing them. Like, you don't have to shoot to kill. And I think,
Right.
like, you know, for somebody to, like, there's no reason why somebody, like, listening, being on their cell phone in the backyard of their grandmother's house, and you feel like, oh, I have to shoot him because it looks like a gun. How does a phone look like a gun? Or why is somebody jogging seen as a threat that you have to shoot and kill them because they're in the wrong neighborhood? Like, why?
And then when it comes down to the, oh, well, we thought, and then you were wrong, and that wasn't the case. Like, just like with Stefan, they thought he fit a description of somebody else that was burglarizing houses in the neighborhood, and it turned out that wasn't him, you know, and in the end it came out, oops, that wasn't him. That's literally all it was oops. The police officers still have their jobs and everything.
And the young violinists in Colorado, like, you know, one of my biggest things deals with mental health, but, you know, him being killed, you know, while being on the street, being accused of being aggressive, you know, when he had like a mental issue, it's just like completely wrong, and the wrong mental health approach to policing.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I want to be a part of that.
That's a good idea. You know why? Because I was thinking about there were a couple of mental issues that had to do with the police brutality thing. And one of them, like, he walked out, he didn't know where he was going. He was naked, I think. I forgot his name. But my thing is, like, there are people who have like Alzheimer's or who sometimes wander, and you're searching for them. Like, is that a reason to kill somebody? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you're right, Stephanie. I mean, there's extremity cases of Alzheimer's. Like, I mean, they could walk out like naked or half naked in a bathrobe, and they're just lost on a sidewalk. I mean, of course, it might seem bizarre if someone first looks at them, but again, that comes to that element of professionalism. And I think with a lot of law enforcement programs, you know, like, instead of just sending them to the academy to, you know, of course, they need all that stuff. But I think today it's very valid that they take extra courses in psychology just so they have some kind of introduction or a 500 level concept of it, as well as maybe some more sociological elements to it too. So that way these operations can be handled better and there'd be less, tragedies.
I know one group's idea was that they would have a system of mental health professionals, counselors. And in my mind, I'm also thinking even like therapists that would, and and this actually exists on the Northwest. These ladies, I think they're ladies for the most part, roll up in a van and they go out and answer calls. Like dealing with mental health. So when I saw that was one of the things that spurred like the idea that I had. Obviously, some situations are dangerous, but to have mental health people that are trained with police, you know, that they're trained in the criminal, but they're trained in the mental health, or maybe like prerequisite trained in mental health. You know, that would be the kind of call that I would think should be addressed by that person.
Well,
have you ever made a song that addresses that alone? Because like you as the vessel to share that message, you can also share it through your music, because you know how effective music is. Like, a child who couldn't even barely say a sentence can recite lyrics, you know what I mean? So like, music has that kind of power where you can affect the children. Like, all the children are singing right now is what's her name, Cardi B, that WAP song. And I'm like, imagine the message was something that could uplift the community, you know what I mean?
Yeah I know. I'm actually wanting to title a project like a music project, a CD, Strings for Justice. and I'm working on getting towards that. I just want it to be really, really impactful. But I'm really, but the interesting thing I'm realizing about the project, like if this project I'm doing is that every single song isn't dealing with Black Lives Matter. Like I have one song that's dealing with finding the joy in life in 2020 in spite of, but but then I'm also gonna have Black Lives Matter in the addressed in the project. So, but yeah,
But
definitely.
the finding the joy also affects Black Lives Matter because a lot of people don't know how great they are. They don't know how the strength they have. They don't know the power that they have. And
Yeah,
sometimes they just need to be told, "You're all right. You're strong. You can do it."
yeah.
So that does pertain to them too, because if they don't know it, they get lost. Why do you think that the first thing that they try to cut every time they said the coronavirus is getting bigger is church? Because the positive message, once you lose people, you lose them. You see everybody's killing each other, and it's all children. Right now, children are killing each other. Like last week, it was a 13-year-old who just shot randomly and hit a 70-year-old woman on the bus. So I'm like, that's crazy. Like, why?
Wow.
Well, there was two brothers here, unfortunately, in Sacramento this weekend that were both shot and killed in the mall. And an important aspect of what you guys were talking about is I spoke to somebody that was at the mall when it happened, and he was somebody that is in the community, used to be in the streets, but is doing different things now. And he said he saw it formulating, that he saw the certain groups of people that were coming and these other groups of people that were coming. And he made a good point, which is kind of what we were talking about, which was this is why it's very important for men and women that have been a part of those communities to be a part of those jobs that help police those things or that help monitor those things. So the security guards that were there had no idea that these groups of people didn't mess with these groups of people and that was going to be a bad situation because they don't recognize it.
Right.
They don't know these children. They haven't been around to see these kids or know their parents or know their families and things like that. So even if it's not in the police force, it's very important to have people that are like us or that are like these children or were like these children working with them now. The mentor thing needs to come back. Even, single mothers and it's just, we need mentors again, and we need people that understand what's going on in those communities. It's a little easier to diffuse the situation if you're able to understand where it can go.
That's
What do you
true.
think would be a great conductor to come up with such programs like that? What would be a good start?
I guess we have to start with each other. And I think sadly, that's
Yeah.
what we've gotten away from. We used to say it takes a village, but it's not villages anymore. Instead of parents listening to the teachers when they're having these problems with these kids or they're being disrespectful, parents are going up to the school and cussing the teachers out now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the funny thing is that they don't realize what teachers go through until now when they have to
When
teach
they're at home.
remotely.
And
Now
then
they
they
have
don't
to be
want to
at
deal with
home and they see it. They're like, oh, that's what they were talking about.
it. Right.
Mhm.
Hurry up and put them back in school. Now I want my kids to hurry up and be back in school too. But I already knew. I did a daycare for years. So this isn't my first time home with them, but it is a lot, and it's just, we have to come back together. We can't keep, not saying we can't trust our children, but kids get away with what they can get away with. Like, we need our parents and our community to come together again in raising these children. It has to take a village again, or we're never going to be okay.
One thing as artists and stuff too, just with our fellow colleagues and stuff too, if just get somebody a strong motive to go ahead and come up with those archetypes and project that, and then it just might create that in reality. It'd be an influence. It'd be that first domino. You definitely. You mentioned social media. Has anybody recently seen this documentary, The Social Dilemma, by chance?
I've heard of it though.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, the negativity is just the tip of the iceberg on that too, but it's much more deep there. And after seeing this, and even after seeing documentaries like this, I'm so glad, like as an adolescent, or even before that, which most kids younger than that have, phones and access to several social media accounts, and that's like the closest thing to a microchip, basically, that they have. And I mean, these kids are literally saying, "Go seriously, literally go out and play in traffic, literally go kill yourself right now," and these things have happened. And
those trending things that they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, let's drive blindfolded, or doing things.
Oh my goodness.
switching gears while moving from the driver's seat to the passenger seat, and I'm like, really?
I think what's really, John asked, what do we start to do about it? And I did work in the social service field. My degree is actually in sociology from Illinois State University. And I worked throughout college with children with severe psychological and behavior disorders. And the sad thing is there was not enough facilities in the whole state, not just our city, in the whole state, to house these children that were supposed to be in residential treatment. Like, it was so severe they couldn't be held in households, and there wasn't enough facilities and there wasn't enough people working with them. And the sad thing is, when budget cuts and stuff with the state came, the first thing to go were a lot of those kind of programs that are helping those children and helping those families and helping.
That's usually what they cut first.
It's what they cut first. And
it's like even in schools, they cut like the music programs first. Like,
yeah, music programs, assistance programs, daycare assistance programs, therapy programs, all those kind of things. And actually the facility that I worked at throughout college ended up even closing down a few years ago. And tons of people lost their job, and all those kids lost their place to stay. And, it's just very, very sad. So a way that I think would be awesome to get started would be to start programs again within the community for people that have been trained to do that, because it's not a 6-week program. They're just not, and not just people, but children too. Just like Elijah McCain, like that was such a sad situation that did not even need to happen, because why use that amount of force when it comes to kids, and why, any of that? But if we can get people back in the streets or back in the social service fields and give them something to do, we have the people available to do it, because many of them have lost their jobs over the years.
This is an extraordinary year too. A lot of people have lost their jobs this year.
Yeah.
I know musicians are suffering, like they laid off entire orchestras until next year. It's kind of crazy. Like, have you guys been performing or what?
I was actually about to say there's some good solutions to like what you were just talking about. One, people may have applied for early on, which is Music Cares by the Grammys. They have a fund. It's a COVID relief fund that they set aside, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. A lot of people were applying for it, and some of the money was up to $1,000. Well, now beyond the COVID relief, now they're doing financial aid, financial assistance.
Oh, that's great.
Utilities, rent, things like that. So that's really interesting, because some people actually did apply for that in April, May, but now is the time to apply for it again.
There's an arts grant here in Chicago called 3 Arts, and I was awarded a grant, and so that was nice. So that was really cool.
Okay.
But not just as an artist being awarded the grant. What I think is really cool about that is knowing that the city recognizes the importance of the arts and how it relates to everybody. I mean, think about it. What does a person first do commonly when they first get in their car? They put on music. If you're in a dentist's office, music going on, If you go on the elevator, there's music. It's everywhere. So there's a role to it, no matter what. I mean, can you imagine walking into your house with I mean, no decor. I mean, like not just paintings or anything on the wall or photography and stuff too, but the furniture and your clothing, fashion. That's all art within itself.
Yeah.
So it's crucial to. That's the core of life. That I think it's just buried under that people don't recognize. So
especially right now in this social media age, I would definitely encourage our artists and our musicians, to get online and post your positive feedback and your positive messages and help guide kids through online, because they're watching, they are watching, but are they watching things?
Yeah.
I think that 2020 actually is an entire era in social media. Like this year is unbelievable. My numbers. I think I went from like an averaging 1,000 to 3,000 hits in a month on like my website. Now I'm averaging like 33 to 60,000. So when Rayshard Brooks was killed in front of, and it's Black Lives Matter, that did bless this aspect of my career. But I played at the Wendy's. I was doing all kind of performances like that. First for the first responders, and then there were more black killings of black, and Rayshard Brooks at the Wendy's. I went out to the Wendy's the next day, to that Wendy's, and performed like hymns and Amazing Grace, different songs like that. I did What's Going On. The next thing you know, there's some video. There was some video, and it surfaced around, and then it just kind of sat there, and it didn't really occur to me. But so one of my Facebook friends said, "You should send this to the family," knowing that his services were going to be coming up, his going home services. Mm-hmm. So the wake, and it's a wake, and then the next day was a funeral. So I actually contacted, to reach out to the family and the law office. Chris Stewart, one of the civil rights lawyers in Atlanta, and I ended up playing for the viewing service, and I got it was like some of the most views I received in my life. But the hits were already going that direction just in 2020. It is something about this year being home, what's happening in all of social media. It's just been unbelievable.
Can you imagine? Because I know for me, I drive home late sometimes, and it used to happen to me a lot. I used to fall asleep behind the wheel. It doesn't happen now, but can you imagine just being shot because of that? That makes me want to cry, because it happens to me all the time. I used to have a problem with my eyes
closing. He was late going to a birthday party or something. His daughter's he forgot to get a gift or something, and he was out, and then he went stopped at Wendy's, yeah.
Regardless of the reason or what somebody was doing, why is the sentence death, and who gets to determine that? It's not even legal to sentence people to death in some states, yet it's legal for the police to kill them.
And for crazy reasons. How many times have you gone to a bar or a restaurant, and how do you know they're giving you dollars that's not counterfeit? You might get one by accident. I'm just saying,
right.
It's within a flow.
It's very possible.
Yeah, it's I actually remember my summer job in high school. Working at the Parks and Recreation, there was this guy, and he's like, if I didn't know any better, probably didn't tell him, hey, can you tell this is fake? And it was like a $20 bill. I'm like, well, not if you told me no. And so, well, watch this. And it was on our lunch break, if you go to McDonald's, it was 2 cheeseburgers for $2 or whatever. And he comes out casually chewing on it, and he has 18 or whatever the change was. It's can you believe that I just walked out and I created I just committed a federal offense and stuff. And I'm like, but yeah, so take that 20 that you have just, your average cat at a cash register, putting that in. And then that goes within any flow of, modern day, not just the current, of commerce, So God only knows where that can end up. And unfortunately, that, as we know, that can be a root of a very huge problem. This something from the world history book.
Yeah. So like the respect that you paid Richmond and your hymns for both of them. What was your favorite song on that album? Because mine was Greatest Faithful.
Oh, Greatest Thy Faithfulness. Yeah, that's right. The collection of gospel hymns. Well, the whole album is hymns, the EP. Greatest Thy Faithfulness is on there. We have the original song "Hymn for Both of Them" is on there. You have "Pray for Me." "Pray for Me" is a very old church hymn. On that, "Amazing Grace" is on there. I don't favorites. I I don't know if I have one. That would be maybe a project where I would view them equally. Although I am pleased with having written something so personal with him for both of them, and seeing the the aftermath right after he was killed, and uh, while unarmed, of course, while chilling in his house eating ice cream, and
That's so sad.
yeah, and I was out on the streets protesting uh, uh, during that time. It was a really crazy time in Dallas, Texas, and so that one maybe stands out just a little bit more because I wrote some musical content, and the other ones are church hymns.
Okay, so we're gonna play Hymns for Both of Them, and we'll be right back.
Have you heard about the Indie Music Show?
I have, Stephanie. It is on every Tuesday evening at 9 Eastern PM, 8 Central PM.
And it airs on the English Connection Media with your hosts, Stephanie Jeannot and
Johnny J.
So please join us this coming Tuesday for another episode of the Indie
Music Show.
Everybody, it's the Indie Show.
Hey everybody, this is Stephanie Jeannot, host and producer of Jazz on the Jeannot radio show, inviting you to listen in to my show on Sunday evenings from 7 to 8 p.m. on the EnglishConnectionMedia.com. That's the EnglishConnectionMedia.com. Listen in and hear Jazz on the Jeannot. Till then, peace.
English Connection Media.
Thank you so much for thank you everybody for watching today's episode of the Indie Music Show, which is each and every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we do have a Facebook page. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach us out to us at facebook.com/Johnny Jeannot. All right, everybody. We hope that you enjoyed the show and hope that you'll join us next week for another episode of
The Indie
Indie
Music
Music
Show.
Show. Peace, everybody.